Mark Rogers TV back with you to run down as many positional units as we can possibly get to across the country. We're back with Nick Dempsey with Conquest Chronicles, and this is just about Nick, as glamorous as you can get in college football. USC wide receiver, and this guy fits the mold to a T. He is tremendous. Juju Smith-Schuster. It all starts with him.
Yeah, he was insane last season. I believe he had about 1,500 yards, 90-ish catches, 10 touchdowns. Unbelievable last year. Got to the point where if you didn't have an answer for Juju Smith, USC was just going to torch you. It started to tip a little too far, and Cody Kessler maybe over-relied on him. But last year, Juju Smith was just lights out. He worked the stiff arm. He got open. He caught just about everything close to him. He was a lot of fun to watch, and he's coming back this year. So I think just about everybody in the world in Trojan land is pretty hyped up about that.
Yeah, and for these wide receivers that don't get a whole lot of credit for being tough, when it comes to this kid, he broke his hand against Cal. They inserted the plate, as you well know, 8 screws, didn't miss any action back on the field, didn't miss any time. Coming off that freshman season, immediately broke onto the scene, 54 catches, got even better last year, was much more of a factor. Who knows what the numbers can actually do if they can continue to soar. But, yeah, he's going to be in that 100-catch range if he stays on the field, and he is something special. Darreus Rogers in his senior season, also a very good player. His time compromised a little bit last year, Nick, but 71 career catches for him.
Yeah, Darreus Rogers is one of those guys that definitely feels like he hasn't come anywhere close to his potential. A lot of that had to do with he had some drops. He just doesn't seem to be the most reliable. But on the other hand, they don't go to him a lot. Kessler, in particular, had a problem with hitting Rogers or any receiver not named Juju Smith-Schuster last year, even though they were open. So that's going to be something we really want to look out for whoever the next USC quarterback is. They've got tons of talent out there, but are they going to spread the ball around? And if they can, I think Darreus Rogers could really step it up this year as a nice counter to Juju Smith. If the defense all focuses on Juju Smith, a guy like Darreus Rogers could be huge next season.
So, yeah, Darreus Rogers, 28 catches, a little less than 300 yards, only about 10 yards per catch, so not getting downfield much. And Cody Kessler, not the type quarterback to get the ball downfield. Strained his hammy, and that really hobbled Darreus Rogers last year despite the 14 starts. He had a number of games, Notre Dame, Utah, that he just couldn't stay on the field because of hamstring issues. Hopefully he's 100% and closes out his senior season in good style. Stephen Mitchell, a third option that's very capable, caught 37 balls last year.
Yeah, Stephen Mitchell, I think, really last season became sort of the number 2 target, a very distant number 2 for Cody Kessler, I think, on most offensive plays. He's another guy that could, again, very much benefit from double and sometimes even triple teams on Juju Smith. That could really leave a guy like Stephen Mitchell open. If he improves from last season, he gets a little bit better hands, he runs tighter routes, I think Stephen Mitchell could really be a nice threat, both short and deep threats. Mitchell got open pretty deep last season. So Mitchell and Rogers are 2 guys you're really looking at who really you want to see make big improvements this offseason and have stellar years in 2016. That's because we know Juju Smith's going to be great. But Stephen Mitchell and Darreus Rogers have to step up. They need a second and third receiving threat for the Trojans. Otherwise, it's just going to be the same as last year. We're all hoping and praying that Juju Smith carries the offense down the field.
Yeah, looking in the game log for Stephen Mitchell, extremely consistent. Didn't show up against Notre Dame and Utah. Not necessarily his issue, just didn't get the ball in his hands. But you look at the back half of the season, he's consistently catching 3 or 4 balls per game and, extending some drives. The wild card in all this, of course, Nick, is Adoree Jackson, because if this kid, the Charles Woodson type, who's one of the best cover corners in college football, if he gets his way and gets onto the field as much as I'm sure he would like as a wide receiver, wow, Smith-Schuster, I do that all the time, don't I? No, I didn't mix that up that time. Smith-Schuster,
you're on.
Adoree Jackson on the other side, and defenses have to pick their poison.
Yeah, it's so Adoree Jackson really wants to play offense. He's been lobbying hard, and Coach Helton wants to get him the ball, but the guy plays defensive back, returns kicks, returns punts. He runs track. He's talking about trying to qualify for the upcoming Olympics. So if you want to add that and then run him 20 or 30 offensive plays a game, that's a lot, even for a freakishly talented athlete like him. What Helton has said is he's probably going to get Adoree Jackson in about 10 to maybe 12 offensive snaps per game. But he's going to have to mix it up. On some of those snaps, the guy's going to have to be a decoy. And on some of those snaps, he's definitely going to Adoree. Because if you only go to Adoree on the 12 snaps he's in, then that's, pretty easy for the defense to read. So I would say look for Adoree Jackson to actually get the ball in his hands on offense 6 to maybe 10 times a game as of right now. But in those 6 to 10 carries, I would expect him to be able to do some pretty special things. The guy has Heisman level talent. It's an award that almost always goes to running back or quarterback, unless you get a Charles Woodson type that is an amazing defensive back, returns kicks. Tim Brown won it as a wide receiver, also did very well returning kicks. But Jackson, an amazing cornerback, returns kicks, and gets in on wide receiver. And sometimes they even run him the ball as a running back. So the guy has an incredible talent. He's going to have to rack up the stats and impress. But finding the right workload for a guy that literally wants to do everything in a football game short of kick the ball is going to be difficult so that you don't burn the kid out. But big things are coming from Adoree Jackson, 100%.
Yeah, it gives the offensive staff something that they really like, and mixing and matching and getting to be creative with an exceptional talent. At the same time, it's a dilemma that you just pointed to. You can't wear the kid out. You can't make him even more susceptible to injury because he's just worn out and doing too much. So he's got to be fresh. He's got to be ready for those 10 to 12 snaps. But at the same time, when he's in the lineup, you can't make it obvious. So you got to pick your spots. You got to make him impactful in big games in key moments, and not just, wow, he scored a couple touchdowns, but we won 35-7. So there's much thought to be brought into the equation there concerning Adoree Jackson.
What sounds really special, not to cut you off here, though, is if you get Juju Smith going hot, as he's expected to do, and then in the same play you got Adoree Jackson, and then you put in Mitchell and Rogers, and you bring in a complement of running backs, who do you double team? I think that's really going to open up sort of the backfield on defense. I think the hope is that even if you don't go to Adoree, you're still going to get somebody wide open for a big play. I think that's the hope, because you can't double team everybody. But yeah, it gives them a lot of interesting combinations and situations on offense for them to play with.
On the surface, it doesn't appear as though the tight end was a huge element in the offense last year, but if you add up the contributions of Taylor McNamara and Tyler Petit, 12 receptions, 15 catches, 5 touchdowns between them, it's pretty much what you typically get out of a starting tight end in most attacks around college football, with McNamara coming into his senior campaign.
Yeah, it was USC has had some real problems at tight end. They've had guys retire. They've had guys get kicked off the team for behavioral issues. That particular kid actually just got sentenced to 6 years in prison, I believe. Last year, they didn't use the tight end a lot. It was at best sort of a safety valve. But this year coming in, there's, I think, 3 pretty talented players coming in. I think Daniel Imodebebe, number 88, he's coming in. He is going to be doing a lot of damage. I think there's a lot of excitement around him. Carrie Angeline and Tyler Petit both have been called out by Clay Helton during his spring press conferences after spring practices. Clay Helton has called out both of those individuals by name and said he's really excited about what they're bringing. So, but again, I think the tight ends, it's awesome to have these extra weapons. How do you work them all in to the best of your advantage. It's a good problem to have if you've got three pretty solid tight ends that you can run with. You've got at least three great wide receivers, four if you want to bring in Jackson on the roster on the team right now. Plus, you got three running backs you're excited about. All of these weapons are great, but how to best use them and how to best use them with what will certainly be a first-year starting quarterback. That's going to be the question. Is he going to, you can have all the combinations and routes and receivers in the world in this impressively fancy playbook, but if your first-year starting quarterback can't make those decisions in real time, and he's just going to default to Juju Smith because that's exactly what everyone would do. And if that's the case, all the stars in the world next to those guys' names aren't going to matter if you don't get them the ball. So I think that's the real question, but so many options. That's what is really exciting. So there's a lot of potential to do damage. Being able to use it, though, that's going to be the issue for USC on offense.
Yeah, it's a loaded offense. Running back, offensive line even is very stable. The wide receivers, we just ran them down. All the talent in the world. Will the quarterback process the decision-making in real time, as you mentioned, and make it all go? And the question is not talent at wide receiver, but interesting questions to see how Adoree Jackson is going to be utilized and how much. Mm-hmm. And is Smith-Schuster going to have? He's going to have a great season if he's on the field, but is he going to have a special season, a Heisman season, and break into that conversation? Those are the storylines there. They're good ones to have at USC. Absolutely. All right, Nick Dempsey from Conquest Chronicles. Always appreciate the breakdown, Nick.
Absolutely. Anytime, Mark.